That is what should be a far more common Bengals W, but is actually quite an uncommon Bengals W. What's up, you guys? It is Sean Ross Sapp. I am here for Common Bengals W for September 29th, 2024. If you missed my Commanders game review, well, it's because I didn't do one till last night, and I figured, you know what, I probably should get this done. I was at the game Monday night. Of course, too late to be doing a review after that show by the time I got home. Tuesday, I had to get ready for a New York trip for work. Had to travel Wednesday, Thursday, catch up on Friday, and by God, did that show Saturday. But we're here just a few hours removed from the Cincinnati Bengals picking up their first win of the season over the Carolina Panthers. And it came down to really a last minute before it was solidified and comfortable. You have that very conservative Zach Taylor play calling and offense whenever the Bengals go up, really at all. But it tends to get them in a lot more trouble than they should be. If you're here, leave a thumbs up. Send in a chat here on the channel, and we'll read it aloud. We'll talk about it. We're here to talk about the game, here to do all that. Doing a different camera setup. If you notice a difference in quality or maybe a lag or something, I have a different setup here. So hopefully it works out. I'm going to do that for the day job as well. But let's talk about this Cincinnati Bengals victory over Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers, 34-24. So what we have seen after that abysmal week one is an offense that is really, really good. I think they're averaging 32, 33 points a game over the last 3 games. There's no reason the Cincinnati Bengals should be losing those games. And let's take a look at how things have unfolded so far. They would have won the Patriots game if Tanner Hudson would not have fumbled at the 1-yard line. Full stop. Would have won that game. Tanner Hudson, persona non grata with the Bengals, it appears. He doesn't seem like they are bringing him back in any meaningful role. The Chiefs, the Bengals would have won that game if not for, one, the penalty, especially considering the fact that the Chiefs had a much more egregious call the next week not get called. But neither here nor there. Mahomes is struggling, by the way. But if Joe Burrow would not have fumbled it for a 7-point return, they would have won that game. And if the Bengals could have got one stop last week, one stop at all, well, they would have won that game as well. The Bengals should be 4-0. Couple of fumbles and a really terrible defense has them at 1-3. And there are a very limited number of teams. I think they showed the graphic. I thought it was 1, but there are like 6 or 7 that have made the NFL playoffs at 0-3. However, due to the nature of this division, especially with the Steelers losing today, despite Justin Fields looking like he is their guy, Bengals have like a 33% chance. Would love for the Bills to just put a smacking on the Ravens tonight. Really, hurt them heading into the game next week. That would be awfully nice. Don't know if that'll happen, but hopefully it will. But we got a lot to talk about. This Bengals defense sucks. Specifically, Cam Taylor-Britt, who has been pretty good, had the worst game of his career. He got absolutely torched. That man got destroyed to the point to where it looked like Andy Dalton, a very savvy veteran, was picking on him. How about this for a stat? Joe Flacco came in to the game, beat the Steelers today for the Colts. September 11th, 2011, Joe Flacco and Andy Dalton both throw touchdown passes. September 29th, 2024, the Bengals or Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco both throw touchdown passes. Occasionally, you'll see the Elgato logo show up here because I'm using this camera. If anybody who is a little more tech savvy knows how to prevent that, let me know. But Joe Burrow had a pretty damn good performance. He rolled out of a couple of sticky situations. There was an interception thrown, and as you see it live as it happens, you think, man, that was a dumb throw. Why didn't he just throw that at the ground and take the 3 points? Then you see later on, Jamar Chase ran a curl route, saw that Burrow was in trouble, ran out, and then Burrow had the ball in the air the direction in which Chase was going and would have completed a big pass, but Chase turns around, runs the other direction. Just a lot of miscommunication right there. Outside of that, the bad comes on the defense and the injuries. Trey Hendrickson's injured. He was down for quite a while. They had him get up. They claimed it was a neck stinger, but he is in a sling. It would not surprise me if Trey Hendrickson has a broken collarbone, if he is running around in a sling. If that's the case, he is out for the year. There's no way around this. If Trey Hendrickson is out for the Cincinnati Bengals, they will be lucky to win 6 games this year. You do get Myles Murphy back, hopefully. You get McKinley Jackson back, hopefully. Bengals run defense very early was great. Had that big stop at the goal line for 0 points. Thought the run defense was decent last week. It didn't last. The Bengals ended up giving up, 150 yards on the ground. And Lamar Jackson will probably help them make that an easy 175 next week. It's bad. It looks like B.J. Hill's maybe a little bit closer to being back than Sheldon Rankins. If Rankins doesn't play a lot this year, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't get brought back next year and they use that $10 million elsewhere. Chris Jenkins looked good. The Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to tell you guys why they get into the positions they're in, where they can't re-sign both, Higgins and Chase. They wait too long for their young players in far too many situations. All across the NFL, you see rookies being used in very meaningful spots and excelling and doing really good. Cincinnati Bengals, they hold on like a year, year and a half, 2 years, sometimes 3 years before they really break out. Chase Brown should have got a lot more touches last year with Mixon there. Well, he is now, and look what's happening. The Bengals need Jordan Battle to be playing at all. And DJ Turner looked pretty good today. Geno Stone isn't good. I got sold wolf tickets on Geno Stone. Sorry to slap my mic there. As I went back and looked at Geno Stone's interceptions last year, they were on some of the worst throws I've ever seen. Von Bell today also got an interception on one of the worst, the easiest interceptions ever. Trey Hendrickson did the work there. The defense is horrible. Horrible. You cannot have that type of performance out of them. And I say that knowing that if the Bengals defense would have held the other teams to 24 points, the Bengals would be 3-1 right now. But let's talk about that offense. We know the defense is bad. We know Von Bell ain't good. We know Jermaine Pratt is looking slower. We know Sam Hubbard is looking slower. We know Geno Stone sold us those wolf tickets, and Cam Taylor-Britt got to get his head on right immediately. Chris Jenkins is looking good. Let's hope that McKinley Jackson can look great as well. Let's get Myles Murphy back. Let's hope for a miracle that Trey Hendrickson did not end his season with a broken collarbone. I'm back. Joe Burrow looked great. That one interception, man, it wasn't on him. It was a miscommunication. The line of scrimmage plays, we found a little bit more success today. And there were a few situations where the talent on the field turned those plays into something. Jamar Chase took a 2-yard gain and turned it into a first down. Zach Moss on an insane 4th down call when the Bengals could have just taken some points, fought for extra yardage after a slip. And fortunately, Nick Scott was the guy right in front of him. Boy, was I excited when I see starters and I see Nick Scott there. And I go, oh, really? Somebody's getting lit up today. And it happened. Zach Moss lit him up. Got 7. I know Zach Moss's numbers don't scream, oh my God, he's great. But listen, Chase Brown had an even split as far as rushes with him. Chase Brown's the guy. Chase Brown is so very clearly the guy for the next 3 years in an NFL that is moving much more towards the run. He's clearly the guy. But Zach Moss, I'm liking him, man. He's getting across that first down marker. He's getting across that pylon. I like what we're seeing out of him. And a lot of that is because of the great offensive line play that we're seeing. Joe Burrow did not get sacked for the first time in over 3 years. Only the 4th time in his career it's happened. What would we have done those back-to-back playoff years for Joe Burrow to not get sacked at all, much less to have averaged 2 sacks per game as we're looking at now? Alex Kappa, what an insane turnaround he had. It was like 90 in the immediate PFF grades. Orlando Brown had a hold, but otherwise he has been worth every dime. Trent Brown is done as a Bengal. He's out for the season. They ain't bringing him back next year. Thanks, big fella. You bridged the gap until Amarius Mims came back. And Amarius Mims looked awesome. Amarius Mims, as things stand, is a wonderful first-round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals because the Cincinnati Bengals now get significantly cheaper on that line. I would expect for them to go guard in the draft, first, second, or third round, because you got Kappa coming up. You got Volson coming up. Both of them did good. I'll say this. Volson allowed a pass deflection that was pretty bad and rolled into the back of Joe Burrow's ankle. That could have been really bad. Fortunately, it wasn't. But at guard, they're probably going to need to get cheaper. Matt Lee, I think, is going to be the guy at center. And Orlando Brown looks like that's where you're spending your money at. But if they can get Volson on a team-friendly deal, I would love to keep him. If Kappa performs like this, all right, he's sticking around next year, no big deal. The offensive line has done great. As a result, the run has been great. Joe Burrow has had more time. He has found people with a lot more ease. We saw Jamar Chase and the attention that he got, rightfully so, open up things for T. Higgins. That man is going to be missed. I mean, what we saw today is how it should be. Check down to the running backs. Some quick plays to tight ends like Eric All, who has become TE1. Drew Sample's the blocker. Mike Gesicki's there. When somebody goes down, Mike Gesicki's going to be there at wide receiver or tight end. Tanner Hudson's persona non grata. Eric All's the guy. He's the guy. Hudson wasn't even active. He's still hurt. Irwin is active but didn't get any snaps. Jermaine Burton didn't play much. But Yoshivas looks like a solid number 3. Now, we do need a number 2. After seeing how T. Higgins is so transformative, how big he is, how he can just reach up, grab the ball, he's going to be missed. Listen, man, if I were the Cincinnati Bengals, I would get cheaper and make some moves and try to retain T if he wants in the 20 millions. If he wants in the 30s, can't keep him. If he wants in the 20s, I would try to keep him. That's how valuable I think he is to this team. Then you're looking at Yoshivas and Jermaine Burton. Now, if Jermaine Burton can get some reps, this is another example of guys that the Bengals just bring along far too long after they start. But the line of scrimmage plays, a couple of them got blown up. There was the pick, there was the miscommunication. Burrow can't slide worth a shit, bro. But there is a gap to be filled at that wide receiver 2 right now. Just call me Toe says Higgins going to get a bag this offseason. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I mean, the Bengals could franchise him again, but it would be for a lot. I wouldn't mind if they franchised him and traded him for literally anything. This was the Bengals looking good against a struggling team next week against the Ravens. Don't think this defense can get them a W. Well, the Ravens are a struggling team as well. And I mean, you can say what you want about the Panthers, but last week they looked very good. I was very concerned that Andy Dalton would dice up the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm surprised that the defense even held to what it did. You know what I mean? Jamar Chase, what more can you say about this guy? He is insane. They need to pay him. They should have paid him already. They should make him a contract offer tomorrow and keep it as cheap as they possibly can. As cheap as they possibly can. I'll say this. Congratulations to Nick Scott finally making a play that helps the Bengals by missing Zach Moss on that goal line. Defense performed better than I thought it would today, but holding the Carolina Panthers with Andy Dalton to 24 points is not exactly something that I want to go dance in the streets about. You know what I mean? However, offensive line, run game, offense in general, those are things I want to throw a parade for. I'll tell you what I want to throw a parade for. Ryan Rico, the best punter in the NFL, is Ryan Rico. Last season, so I've walked you through this before. The Bengals had not had to worry about punter for 15 years. Kevin Huber played more games as a Bengal than anybody in history. Unfortunately, it became abundantly clear that it was time for him to go. They brought in Drew Chrisman, and Drew Chrisman, I think, did a good job. And I wondered, why isn't Drew Chrisman back last year? Well, I don't know if he was anything there like what we're seeing now, but I get it now. He's a colorful personality. I think the Bengals could use some colorful personalities. I think they could use some Drew Chrismans. Either way, they drafted a punter, and Brad Robbins sucked historically last year. And he's on, I don't know if he's on IR or what the deal is now, but Ryan Rico took that job. And if the Cincinnati Bengals even give Brad Robbins a shot, that is an indictment on management and ownership, because Ryan Rico fell into their lap. And if you remember, is it Austin McNamara they also picked up as an undrafted guy? So Ryan Rico wasn't even an option then. They had Robbins, they picked up McNamara, and I can't imagine how bad McNamara was to not even get the shot over Robbins, but Robbins had his best punt of his professional career in the preseason, and then he got hurt. Rico took the job, and Rico is not giving that job back. Not giving that job back. He is 6'5", 235. Get him in the WDB Performance Center already. There was a lot I liked about this game. Bengals are home next week, I believe, against the Ravens. Yes, they are against the Ravens. I just want to say this as well. Bless Andy Dalton. You could never make me hate that man. I didn't even dislike him until the last season when it was so bad. When it was just so bad. And by then, even though it was so bad that year, I was like, I'm willing to not win this season to get Joe Burrow. That's how transformative I knew Joe Burrow was going to be. We needed a new QB. Andy Dalton did the Bengals so well. The Bengals were supposed to be in a rebuild, and not a quick one under Andy Dalton. They lost Chad Ochocinco. They lost Terrell Owens, and they lost Carson Palmer. And they're like, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to draft A.J. Green in the first round. We're going to draft Andy Dalton in the second. And I remember there were people on the radio saying, oh my God, Jordan Palmer might be the starting quarterback for this team. And I was like, what are you talking about? He ain't going to be on the roster. Who are we kidding? And Andy Dalton and AJ Green took the Cincinnati Bengals to the playoffs a number of seasons in a row. And for the first couple of years, I was just happy to be in the playoffs ahead of schedule, right? Years ahead of schedule. By the time the Bengals were expected to maybe be in the playoffs, it had been like his third year. Then the implosion happened, and they never went back. But Andy Dalton was never a part of that implosion. He was never a part of that breakdown. Andy Dalton did what he could and was as good for the Bengals as he could be until he couldn't be anymore, and then he had a bad season. And I am so happy to still see that guy in the league. First off, A+ hair. Second off, A+ guy. And I had always hoped before Jake Browning came around that Andy Dalton would be able to back up Joe Burrow. Because there's nobody that I would rather have, and this includes Jake Browning, as a backup than Andy Dalton for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is going to go into the Ring of Honor one day. He deserves way more praise than he gets. I was so happy to see him win last week to the point that I was worried about what he would do this week. But I'll tell you a thing that I loved watching this game was seeing Andy Dalton smile and enjoy playing football. That made me so happy. A guy that provided so many wonderful memories for me as a Bengals fan and a lot of people as Bengals fans. Like, look, listen, we're talking about him scoring a receiving touchdown against the Titans. Oh, and he was so happy to be playing. And he finds a way to start every single year. This is a fourth team that he started with against the Bengals. Love that guy. I hope one day he's brought back into the franchise in some capacity, whether it be as a backup quarterback or whether it be in, some sort of ambassador role. But this is a guy that belongs in the Cincinnati Ring of Honor, and it was good to see him today. It was better to beat him today. I'll say that. But the Carolina Panthers did their hopefully future quarterback and Bryce Young a great disservice in not starting Andy Dalton last year. Because if they would have started Andy Dalton last year, we'd be looking at Bryce Young probably off to a good start this year. Just Call Me Toast as future head coach. I doubt it. I mean, listen, these guys make so much money. There's no real motivation for them to head coach. Analyst, I could definitely see him working as an analyst, but based on what I see, it seems like he's a very, very big family man, and it's just made me happy. Made me happy. First off, that somebody like that's still in the league, because I don't think there's anybody else left from that team, from that 2011 team, that is still in the league. I'm going to look. 2011 Bengals. Yeah, it's like it gave us hope, right? Coming out of a dark situation, you lose your franchise wide receiver, Chad Ochocinco. You lose the superstar that he recruited there to play with him. And then your star quarterback is like, this city sucks, get me out of here. And then the second round draft pick comes in, starts immediately, and takes you to the playoffs. How could I ever dislike that guy, man? How on earth could I dislike that guy? Yeah, there is nobody left from that Cincinnati Bengals team. Probably nobody left from the last time they made the playoffs either. If I look at it, A.J. McCarron's still playing football somewhere. Is Marvin Jones still in the league? Or did he retire? I know he played last year, but CJ Uzama, he's still in the league, isn't he? Or did he get cut? I don't know. Is he not with a team at all now? Looking at that, he is a free agent. I'll be damned. Just Call Me says, I believe Marvin is retired. Man, he was a dog too. He was so good. It's good to be talking about a win. I feel like the Bengals need to win next week. They need to win next week against the Ravens a lot more than they need to win in 2 weeks against the Giants. And right now, as we film this, the Las Vegas Raiders are up 20-10 over the Cleveland Browns. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost. And the Ravens are facing a Buffalo Bills team that is just psycho looking. So maybe the Bengals get some help. The division is not out of reach. Also, I want to shout out Dejon Anthony for breaking up that fake punt that could have been game-changing at that point. Common Bengals W, my friends. It was a good day. Until next time, we're out.